Okay. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Sanjaya, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 1. Contents of the Gita summarized. We're doing the shlokas now. Sanjaya Uvacha. Hello, Hare Krishna. Can I start, Mataji?
Yes, please.
Okay, sorry. Sanjaya Uvacha Tam Tatha Kripaya Vishtham Ashru Purna Kulekshanam Vishidantam Idam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha.
Krishna. Text 1. Sanjay slates, saying Arjun full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears. Madhusadana, Krishna spoke the following words.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Kutastva Kashmalam Idam Vishame Samupashtitam Anarya Jushtam Aswarya Makirti Karam Arjuna.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead saying, my dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon me? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy.
Klaibyam Masmagamah Partha Naitat Tvayupapadyate Shudram Hridaya Daurbalyam Tyaktvotishtha Parantapa.
O son of Pratha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, or justify of the enemy.
Arjuna Uvacha Katham Bhishmam Aham Sankhye Dronam Cha Madhusudana Ishubhihi Pratisyotsami Pujarha Varisudana.
Arjun said, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counterattack? With arrows in battle, men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship.
Gurunna hatva hi mahano bhavan Shreyo bhoktum vaikshyam api haloke Hatvartha kamamstu gurun nihaiva Bhunjiya bhogan rudira pradikdhan.
It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood.
Na chaitad vidmaha kataranno garyo yadva jayema yadivano jayeyuhu yane vahatvana jijivishamas te vashishtaha pramukhe dhartarashtraha.
Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield.
Karpanyadosha svabhavaha prachami tvam dharma samudhacetaha yachreyasyan nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam.
Now I'm confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of my miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me.
Nahi prapashyami mamapanudyad yachokamuchoshanam indriyanam avapya bhoma vasapatnamriddham rajam suranam apichadipatyam.
I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven.
Sanjaya uvacha एवमुक्त्वा ऋषिकेशं गूढकेशः परन्तपः न योत्स्य इति गोविन्दम् उक्त्वा तूष्णीं बभूवः.
Sanjay said, having spoken thus, Arjun, the chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent.
तम् उवाच ऋषिकेशः प्रहसन् इव भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्तम् इदं वचः.
So descended of Narada. At that time, Krishna, smiling, in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjun.
श्रीभगवानुवाच अशोच्यान् अन्वशोचस्त्वं प्रज्ञावादंश्च भाषसे गतासुन् अगताशुंश्च नानुशोचन्ति पण्डितः.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead.
न त्वेवाहं जातु नासं न त्वं नेमे जनाधिपः न चैव न भविष्यामः सर्वे वयम् अतः परम्.
Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be.
देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहान्तरा प्राप्तिर्धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति.
As the embodied and continuously passes from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such change.
मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखदाः आगमापायिनो नित्य तं स्वभारत.
The non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, cosine of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed.
यं हि न व्याथयन्त्येते पुरुषं पुरुषर्षभ समदुःख सुखं धीरं सोमृतात्व्याय कल्पते.
O best among men, Arjun, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation.
नासतो विद्यते भावो नाभावो विद्यते सतः उभयोरपि दृष्टोंस्तत्त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः.
Those who are students of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both.
अविनाशी तु तद्विधि येन सर्वम् इदं ततं vinasham yasyasya na kaschit kartum arhati.
That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul.
Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirinaha anashino prameyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata.
The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata.
Yenam vetti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate.
Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain in the knowledge is in knowledge. So the heart slays not nor is slain.
Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah ajo nityah shasvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire.
For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain.
Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajam avyayam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam.
O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone who forces anyone to kill?
Vashamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grahanati naroparani तथा शरीरानि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि.
As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones.
नैनं चिन्दति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः.
The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burnt by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind.
अच्छेद्योऽयम् अधायोऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतास्तानुराचलोऽयं सनातनः.
This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. It is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry for any mistakes.
Please forgive us for mistakes.
No, Mamta Mataji, your recitation is beautiful. So nicely and
Mataji.
slowly. Very
Thank you,
beautiful.
Mataji.
Thank you. And thank
Krishna
you.
Mercy, Krishna Mercy. Thank you,
And
Mataji.
Mamta Mataji, you are surrounded by these beautiful plants. So even that atmosphere seems very nice.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you,
Hare
Deepak
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Thank you for hearing. Thank you for
Thank you.
tolerating us, so many mistakes, but thank you for
Thank you for
tolerating
giving
us.
us this.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Deepak Prabhu, for your association and helping me. Thank you.
All right. So I will share the screen.
Chanting bag ગાડીમાંથી ના લઈ આવી. Did I have my chanting bag in the car? I thought I brought it in. I
Can
love you too, my Lali.
Hare Krishna. Can I ask everybody to please mute yourselves? Okay. Here. All right, okay. So we are continuing on chapter 2, and today we will be doing the verse number 24. Very, very interesting chapter, very interesting verses that we have been going through. And today's verse is quite philosophical and deep. So hopefully we will be able to extract some nectar out of it and some meaning from the purports of Prabhupada, and hopefully we will be able to understand the soul a bit more. So let's start. Okay, Bhagavad Gita 2.24. Achadyo ayam adhyayo ayam akledyo shosha evacha nitya sarvagatha sthanur achaloyam sanatanaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Would anybody want to read the purport?
Hare Krishna
Is
Mataji,
there any-
I would like to
Krishna
read.
Mataji.
There was somebody who spoke before Falguni Mataji.
It's Santosh Mataji here.
Yes. Okay, Santosh Mataji, would you like to read?
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Maybe you could read one paragraph and Falguni Mataji could read the second.
Thank you. That's fine. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
All these qualifications of the atomic soul definitely prove that the individual soul is eternally the atomic particle of the spirit soul, and he remains the same atom eternally, without change. The theory of monism is very difficult to apply in this case because the individual soul is never expected to become one homogeneously. After liberation from material contamination, the atomic soul may prefer to remain as a spiritual spark in the effulgent rays of this supreme personality of Godhead. But the intelligent souls enter into the spiritual planets to associate with the personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Okay. The word Sarvagata, all pervading, is significant because there is no doubt that living entities are all over God's creation. They live on the land, in the water, in the air, within the earth, and even within fire. The belief that they are sterilized in fire is not acceptable because it is clearly stated here that the soul cannot be burned by fire. Therefore, there is no doubt that there are um, there are living entities also in the sun planet with suitable bodies to live there. If the sun globe is uninhabited, then the word Sarvagata, living everywhere, becomes meaningless. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Santosh Mataji and Falguni Mataji. Thank you so much. Before we continue discussing this verse, we'll recite our prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatirubhascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Okay. So let's look at this verse. Let's understand. Sorry. So first of all, let's try and understand this verse in relation to the verse 2.23. So yesterday you all did this verse 2.23 with Mukund Hari Prabhu, which is a very, very beautiful verse. Nayanam chindanti shastrani, nayanam dahati pavaka, na chainam kledayanti apo, na shoshati marutaha. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burnt by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So what in these particular verses, what Krishna is doing is he is explaining, or he is trying to convince Arjuna why Arjuna should continue and go ahead and fight. And that is why this whole conversation between Krishna and Arjuna is happening about the soul. So in the past few verses, we have seen that the nature of the soul is being described. You know, like how the soul can never be cut and cannot be burned and etc etc. And previously, how that the soul is eternal. It is individual. It does not join together with the super soul. So all of these descriptions are being given by Krishna. So now the interesting thing over here is that, so in 2.23, Krishna says that the soul can never be cut to pieces. So the question is why the soul can never be cut to pieces. So in this verse, it's being said, it is achedya, it is unbreakable. Because the soul is unbreakable, it cannot be cut into pieces, right? Then likewise, it says that the soul cannot be burnt by fire. Why it cannot be burnt by fire? Because it is adhyaya. You cannot burn it, right? Again, it says it cannot be moistened by water because it is akledya. It is insoluble. That is why. And then it is ashosha. That is why it cannot be withered by the wind. It cannot be dried. So like if we use the analogy, I have a carpet here with some stain. You know, when we say a carpet is stain proof, it means that I'm getting some kind of an echo sound. If I'm just gonna mute everybody. Okay, so when we say something is, let's say we say the carpet is stain proof. The reason why we're calling the carpet is stain proof is because there has been a process, a chemical applied or whatever else that the carpet will not get stained. Like we say something is waterproof, like, I'm using my umbrella or I'm using a bag which is waterproof, means that the water will not penetrate through. So like that, so in previous verses, Krishna is saying that yes, soul cannot be cut, it cannot be burnt. The reason is the characteristic, the nature of the soul is such that it is unbreakable, it cannot be burned, it is insoluble. That is the nature of the soul. So in this verse, Krishna is very categorically specifying that this is the nature of the soul. So very important to understand and relate it with verse 23. That's why I've tried to kind of put this together. Now, what we understand from this verse is that the soul is a single unit, but it has got permanent fixed properties and it cannot be altered by anything, by the material nature at all, right? And what's important to understand over here, and Prabhupada often uses this example, that we are coming from this, the whole, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are so many innumerable souls coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he still remains the whole. So the analogy here that Prabhupada uses is that when you tear a piece of paper, that paper is no longer whole. That paper has been torn to pieces. But in case of the soul that is part and parcel of Krishna, this very important verse from Ishopanishad actually clarifies this. And it says, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnascha Purnamadaye Purnameva Vashishyate. The translation is, the personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. We can actually count the number of times the word complete has been used here. So, because it's very clearly it says here, whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. So the souls are also complete. Now, we can see that this understanding and this knowledge of the soul is not very, very common. So many intelligent scientists and academics think that once this body is over, everything is over. That's it. And that is why this idea of, just enjoy yourself, enjoy while you're here, because you don't know what's going to happen next once you're dead. That idea is very deep rooted in a lot of people in the society, and especially in the Western world. Prabhupada used to give this example many times, and he used to, in fact, quote this encounter that he had with academics in Russia and academics elsewhere, where wherever he tried to speak about the soul and speak about the transmigration, a lot of scientists would not believe in that or would not agree to that understanding, because their knowledge was that, once this body is over, everything is over. But we understand from the pages of the Bhagavad Gita that that is not the case. The soul is engaged, and it is engaged actually in two bodies. One is the gross body, which is made, or bhumi, rapo, nalo, vayu, which is made of the earth, water, air, fire, etc. And then the other is the subtle body, which is the mind, intelligence, and ego. So the soul actually is engaged in these two different bodies. But because there is not enough knowledge about this, it is almost like Prabhupada used to say, the blind leading the blind. So nobody knows that I am actually not this body, but I am this soul. And because nobody knows that I am this soul, then obviously the subsequent knowledge of what is my, what is the goal of life? As a soul, where do I go? So what we are doing is actually, we are just living our lives no different to animals, and in our Shastras, it says this verse, which Prabhupada uses very often, is ahara nidra bhaimad maithunamcha samanyan eta pashubi narana, meaning that the animal eats, sleeps, mates, and defends. And as human beings, we also are doing exactly the same. Just because we have advanced in the way we eat, as in we sit on a dining table and eat, or just because we have advanced in the techniques of how we can sleep peacefully with a good mattress and whatever else, that is not the advancement. That is not knowledge. Knowledge is to know that I am this soul, and knowledge is to know what is the ultimate goal of the soul, right? Okay, then again in this verse, very important word that is used is sarvagata, and Prabhupada says this in the paragraph. He says, the word sarvagata, all pervading, is very significant. Now, again, this concept of that living entities exist only in certain areas, immediately Bhagavad Gita, counter attacks this idea, and it says over here that the soul is all pervading. So a soul can actually exist anywhere in the material creation. Of course, it has to be embodied in a suitable body. So, for example, we know that there are thousands and thousands of species of fishes and different kind of sea animals living in the water. Now, if I was to go in the water, if I was pushed into the water, and I don't know swimming, so I really do have a very, very strong fear of water. So if I was to be pushed into the water, I would obviously not be able to survive, because my body has not been made for that specific area. Like we know that the underneath in the soil, there are so many different kinds of insects and worms and whatever else that live there. And that is the reason why, if anybody has heard of Jainism, people who are Jains, I don't know if there's anybody on this call, but I do have a lot of friends who follow that religion, Jainism. And that's the reason why they will not eat even the vegetables and fruits that are grown underneath the soil. Like they will not eat potatoes and carrots and whatever else, because they believe in ahimsa so very strong that they feel that if they eat potatoes and carrots, and if there have been worms or whatever else, they are actually killing them. In fact, some of them who follow it so strictly that they do not celebrate Diwali, because they know that there is microbes and organisms in the air, and by celebrating Diwali and by fireworks and that, they could be harming them. So the point that is being made over here is that very important to understand that the soul is all pervading. It can survive anywhere in the universe. Of course, the understanding is that then it is in that particular kind of body. So for everybody, like, we can see even when we study, like, just simple science, students, young students also will see that how the body is adapted to the kind of environment that we are living in. If an animal is living in a place which is very, very cold, then his skin, he has got fur to help him to withstand the cold. So we can see that. So the body adapts to whatever environment that we are going to be living in. And in the Bhagavad Gita, also in chapter 9, verse 25, and we all know this verse where it says, Yanti Deva Vritam Devam Pitrim Yanti Pritra Vrata, meaning that, the one who prays to the demigods will go to the land of the demigods, and some may go, wherever else. So different. So the point is that if you go to these particular places, then you are given that kind of body. But to think, which is what the scientists think, that living entities do not already exist is wrong, because then that will, it nullifies the words of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, where he is saying Nitya Sarvagata Stanur. So today the scientists are trying to go to the moon planet, which is fine. But what is not being understood is that in order to survive there, you have to have a different kind of body. You cannot survive in this body. And to think that we will be the first inhabitants is wrong, because we know from our shastras that all of these heavenly planets, and the moon planet is one of the heavenly planets, there are already living entities there, like there are living entities even in the sun planet. So yeah, that's. And then again, the other very important aspect is about Achalo Ayam Sanatana. Ayam means this soul is Sanatana, eternally the same, as in the soul does not change. And I have picked up some verses from the Bhagavad Gita. I'm going to read the verses and then I'm going to ask a question based on these verses. So please pay attention. So the first one is Bhagavad Gita 15.7. I'll just read the translation, although the Sanskrit of these verses are beautiful, but we won't have that much time. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Then it is verse 8.20. Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. And the final verse, 10, 12, and 13. Arjuna said, "You are the supreme personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages, such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa, confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me." Now, my question is, what is it that is common, or that one factor that you can see that's a common thread in these three verses? Anybody, any idea?
Is that he says the living entities is the part and parcel of Supreme Lord?
Yes. But what is the common factor?
Is it Krishna who is
And
eternal?
they're eternal.
Krishna is
Yes.
eternal.
Yes. That is the exact word that I was looking for. So you see in these three verses, Krishna is describing, one is that we all, the living entities, are eternal. Second aspect he is describing is that there is another transcendental and eternal nature, right? So he's describing the place which is eternal. And the third thing he's describing is that where Arjuna is saying, you are eternal. So Krishna is eternal. You see, so it's so important to understand, I am eternal, Krishna is eternal, but this place where I am is not eternal. It is temporary. And that is why I don't belong to this place. Like how if I was pushed into the ocean, I would not survive because I don't belong in that ocean. Same way, I don't belong in this material world. I am part and parcel of Krishna. I am eternal, just like Krishna is eternal. And Krishna is inviting me to be with him in the place which is eternal. You see? So we all are Sanatan. And Krishna consciousness is bringing all these three Sanatan aspects together, all these three eternal aspects together. You see? So in these verses, Krishna is describing the nature of the soul which is eternal. It's not the body, right? Because we know that the body will finish and we may come in another body. Let's say that in my next life, I come back as a dog or as a cat. Now, obviously, the activities that I will perform as a dog or cat is going to be different to the activities that I'm performing as a human being. However, the soul is eternal. The nature of the soul does not change. That nature of the soul is called the dharma. So we are talking here about Sanatan Dharma. Now, again, this analogy we must have used so many times, but try and understand this with this concept. Sanatan Dharma cannot be applied to the body because the body changes. So Sanatan Dharma is being applied to the soul because that never changes. Like the dharma of the sugar is to be sweet. The dharma of the salt is to be sweet. So dharma is a characteristic. Now in the Oxford Dictionary, dharma is defined as a kind of faith. And Prabhupada says that is not correct because the faith of a person can change. And he speaks about this in many of his lectures, where he says, today you may be following, let's say, Christianity. Tomorrow you might decide to follow Hinduism. Day after you might, decide to follow the other Abrahamic religion. So that changes. But dharma, which is a characteristic, does not change at all. And what is the characteristic of the soul? It is that I am eternal part and parcel of Krishna. So I am eternally the servant of Krishna. And thus, the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita is where Krishna says, Sarva dharman paritajya mam ekam sharanam raja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksheshami masucha. So Krishna is saying that abandon all other varieties of religion simply because your eternal dharma is to be a servant of mine, right? And so you just abandon all of this and mam ekam sharanam raja, take the shelter of me. Now, again, I speak about this all the time because I think it is so important, and especially if there are new members on the group. The question is, how do you eternally think of Krishna and how do you then surrender to Krishna? And it is, Mahaprabhu has given us this very, very easy thing. Prabhupada has spoken to all of us about it, has taught us this, has taught all his disciples. The easiest way is by chanting the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the Bhagavad Gita, what it is trying to do is allowing us to identify that I am this eternal soul, and thus what is my eternal dharma? That is to take the shelter of Krishna, so that I can go back to the eternal abode, and over there I can be in association of Krishna and serve him. Okay. Now, just to reinforce this thought, so that we can all meditate on this particular thought, I thought it'll be nice to take a story from the Mahabharata about Arjuna. So after the battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna asked Krishna to then, after everything had happened, he said, okay, you may descend from the chariot now. And Krishna said to Arjuna that, you get off first. He didn't say why. He said, you get off first. And so Arjuna got off the chariot, and then Krishna got off the chariot. And, as soon as Krishna got off the chariot just completely disintegrated. Some say it caught fire, some say it just disintegrated, because for the past 18 days, different kinds of weapons were used. There were mantras recited, and, so the chariot was just there. So Krishna then explains to Arjuna, the chariot was simply there because I was on the chariot, And then I will tell you another story. So this happens then. And after the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna has gone back to Dwarka, and then, eventually Arjuna goes to Dwarka. When he gets there, he realizes that Krishna has finished his worldly pastimes. He has left now. And so Arjuna feels responsible for the queens of Krishna, and he decides to bring the queens from Dwarka to Hastinapur so that he can protect them. And when he is on the way, a band of villagers who are not even like great kshatriyas or warriors attack Arjuna because they wanted to steal away the queens. And Arjuna in his mind is thinking that, I am such a great warrior. I have defeated people like Bhishma and Drona, and I fought the Kurukshetra war. So, these are just simple villages. It's not a big deal. But what happens is that he gets defeated. Right? And then they go away with the queens, and he is completely like, devastated, thinking, it's the same me. I am the same Arjuna. I have my same Gandiva, I have all my strength and power. And then the realization comes that Krishna is not with me. You see? So the point that we are trying to make over here is that we all also are part and parcel of Krishna, and our only dharma is Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. We are eternal servants of Krishna. And so our constant meditation should be that I am not this body, I am the eternal servant of Krishna. How do I again bring my consciousness to that stage where I start to realize that my goal in life is how can I get closer to Krishna? Okay. And then just one very important aspect here to understand is, Prabhupada says this, that the theory of monoism is very difficult to apply because the individual soul is never expected to become one homogeneously. So we want to be one with Krishna in service. We don't want to become one with Krishna as in lose our individuality. And again, Krishna very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita in verse 2.12, he says this. He says, Na tvam eva ham jatu nasham, na tvam neme janadipa, na chaiva na bhavishya me, sarva vayam ataparam. He says, never was there a time when you or me or all these kings did not exist, and never will there be a time in future when they will cease to exist. So Krishna very clearly is talking about individuality. So we don't lose our individuality. What we do, what we gain is we gain Krishna. We bring Krishna into our lives, realizing that we are eternal parts and parcel of Krishna, and our eternal dharma, Sanatan dharma, is to serve Krishna. So I will stop here so that we can have some discussions and questions and answers if there are any. And I hope this verse has made sense. But yeah, if there'll be discussions, maybe something more will come out. We can churn a bit more.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Puja Mataji.
Yes, so far everybody has been telling that the soul cannot be destroyed in any way because it is such a small size. But you have shed very good light that it is insoluble, it cannot be, it's unbreakable. And I think that is a learning point for me from your session today, Mataji.
Yes, yes. Puja Mataji, important to understand that the soul cannot be destroyed, not because the soul cannot be seen or identified.
Yes.
That's not the reason. The reason is because the nature of the soul is such that it just cannot be destroyed ever. It is eternal.
Yeah, that's a very good reflection that I'm learning from you today, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So you were saying about the dharma. So Srila Prabhupada said that there is no dharma, right? But our main goal is to reach Krishna. Yes. So when we die, and if we haven't finished what we need to, we come back to this world to finish that off. But what if you come back as a different person? What if you come back as a Christian or something? You're not going to be concentrating on Krishna then, are you?
Okay, so the point here is a couple of things that we should understand. That Prabhupada says, and in our Shastras it is said, and Krishna says this, that I can't remember the exact verse where Krishna says, but Krishna says that if you have done devotional service in this life, and for some reason you have not been able to complete it, so in your next life, you will be given the birth either in a rich man's family or in a Vaishnava's family where already there is devotion. Rich man, so that you don't have to worry about the material necessities of life, so you can devote your time to spiritualism. Or you may be born in a Vaishnava family. So if you're born in a Vaishnava or a religious family, then you will start wherever you stopped, you will start from there. And that is why it is so important for all of us. We've been given this human life. We don't know what we will come as in our next life. We could even come as animals, right? We don't know that because that is all based on our karma. And our karma is not just this life's karma, it is so many previous lifetime karma. You see, all that karma is accumulated. But what we should worry about, what we should do is not worry about what will happen in my next life. Take shelter of Krishna in this life, chant the holy names, read Prabhupada books, understand what he's saying, and pray that no matter what life I come in, I never forget you, Krishna. That's it. Whether I come as a, great devotees pray that even if I come as an animal, let me come in as an animal in the homes of Vaishnavas so that I can eat the remnants of prasad that they threw out.
Oh, that's very good. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mamta Mataji.
Mataji, the soul, I mean, obviously, you say it's I want to know whether the soul, does it ever remember the past lives? Because we are conditioned, we can't remember, but does the soul, because soul is eternal, does it remember anything at all?
So, you must have heard of stories where people, like when a child is born and he remembers his past life, he says that in my past life, I was so and so and I was so and so. So that is the subtle body which carried the soul. That is the memories of that. But Krishna very kindly does not give us memories, because think about it. If we start remembering all our previous lives, we will not be able to survive in this current life. Because think of, probably my husband or my parents in this life were, my enemies in last life. They killed me maybe for whatever reasons, or I had a fight with them. I mean, think about it, anything.
Yes.
That is why Krishna does not give us memories. So we don't get these memories. But yes, the subtle body, which is the mind, intelligence, and ego, carries this. Like last time I gave the example of how the air carries the scent of wherever it goes from. So the subtle body carries this, and based on that, you are then given the next body. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, the Mataji was asking about, about the next birth.
Mm-hmm.
And that the sloka is 641.
641.
Shmitam gehe yoga brashto abhijayate.
Parantapa. Shinvatam swakata. Okay, that's a very beautiful verse. Krishnavani Mataji, can you recite it?
Yeah. It's chapter 6, verse 41. It said, Prapya punya krutam lokan shitva shashvati samaha suchinam srimatam gehe yoga brashto abhijayate. So the suchinam srimatam gehe means either you can take birth in a Brahmin family or in a rich family.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing, Krishnavani Mataji. That's beautiful. Thank you. Any other questions or comments or reflections, realizations?
Mataji, at what stage does the soul leave the body when people die?
We've discussed we've discussed this question, I think, in our last session, if I'm not mistaken. And what like I said even last time, I'm not an authority on this subject, but what I've heard is that for the first 13 days of when one dies, the soul is still kind of around. I mean, it leaves the body, obviously, the moment you die. What is death? Death is that the soul has left the body. Because think about it, the body is still there. All your parts, everything is still there. So what has gone? What has gone is the soul. So death is that the soul has left the body. But the soul is still around in this material realm for at least 13 days. And that is why, in Hindus, we do various kinds of rituals, where we kind of are actually telling the soul, it's okay for you to now move on to your next, wherever you need to go to, So after 13 days, then the soul travels. And again, the travel of the soul is given in our Shastras, which is very interesting, because based on the karmas that it has done, it'll either move on to the heavenly planets or it would probably go to the hellish planets. And if it is going to the hellish planets, then the description of the travel is so scary that once you read that, you would always think that, don't want to go there. And so I will try and take to Krishna consciousness. But yes, the soul leaves the body as soon as the body is dead. I mean, that's death. Soul
Yeah,
leaving is death.
because I know we do the rituals for 12 days, so that question came from. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mataji.
No problem at all.
Hare
Any other
Krishna,
questions?
Kumari.
Yes,
Hare
yes,
Krishna.
Palika.
Yeah, I just, you mentioned about souls staying for 13 days. Is it for also the very elevated soul? I mean, like Srila Prabhupada.
That's a good question, Palika Mataji, and I feel totally insignificant to answer that. Obviously, I don't know the answer to that.
I mean,
have no idea.
I understand from, I mean, I mentioned it before because one of the devotee in Brajodham, she passed away, and actually Guru Maharaj, Shibra Maharaj was there when she was leaving her body. And I've also read in Bhagavatam that, like in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, it says that Krishna reveal your identity, like we have the relationship with Krishna at that time when you're completely purified in this life. Krishna actually reveal your relation with him, and in that body you live to the spiritual world. And that's when that devotee passed away in New Brajadham. Actually, Guru Maharaj, Shibra Maharaj said that her identity was identified. So I think it depends on the consciousness, the person, how pure you are at the
And
stage of.
Palika Mataji, the other point to consider is that Srila Prabhupada was not even an ordinary person. He came from the spiritual world. So we cannot even apply these or understand these
that's very true.
based on,
Yes.
he came from there. He was an empowered being. He was not a normal.
Yes.
So
yes.
So, but the point that for us normal beings to understand is that if we take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, if we take shelter of Krishna, then Srila Prabhupada says that, I will come. And I recently was reading this one article in Dandavats, in our, Vaishnav papers. And they were talking about this one sannyasi who in the 70s took shelter of Srila Prabhupada, did a lot of service, book distribution and preaching and all of that. And he continued for a while, but after Srila Prabhupada left, physically left this world, he again fell back to his, wrong ways and started doing wrong things. And then he got some disease and whatever else. But when he was in the hospital, and when he was on his deathbed, literally, and the doctor said that, anytime he'll be gone. And at that time, he sat up on his bed and he said, Prabhupada, you have come. So the point here is that if you have done some service for Prabhupada and for Krishna, Krishna does not ever forget, ever. So we must have that faith and continue on. It doesn't matter, where we will come next life and whatever. Let's just surrender to Krishna and leave that to him. Let him decide for us. But have the faith that what he will do is going to be perfect.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, can I just ask one more question?
Yes.
It's regarding, now we're talking about the soul leaving the body. However, the other end, when does it enter the body?
So again, that depends on a lot of things. It depends, of course, on your karma, because we also talk about some souls. If they've committed suicide, then they become ghost. Then they never get a gross body at all. So a lot of things. It depends on all of those things. Again, I'm not an authority, but what I know is that Krishna actually decides. See, based on your karma and based on Krishna, your next body is already identified. And so once you have, left and whatever, either if you're going to the heavenly planets and whatever, it's different. But if you're going to another body, then it's identified. And what I understand is that within some time, like immediately, you will be transferred to that other body.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. If we die in this country, do we take a birth in this country?
country and world and universes don't matter in the spiritual realm. So whether we die in this country or whether whatever, that is not important, because that's all material considerations. What is important is, what is my consciousness?
Yes.
What am I thinking of? What have been my activities? What has my karma been?
Yes.
Those are important aspects.
Thank
Because
you.
Prabhupada said that wherever there are devotees of Krishna, and wherever Krishna Katha is being spoken, that is the abode of Krishna. Krishna does not stay in Vaikuntha or in Goloka. Krishna stays where there is Krishna Katha being spoken.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
There is, I don't have the name here, but somebody has shared that there is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 5, which talks about the memory of past life. And the Lord says, many, many births, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. Krishna is saying this to Arjuna, when Arjuna says to Krishna, how can I believe that the sun god is so much more senior to you or older to you? How can I believe that you gave the instructions to the sun god? And at that, Krishna says to Arjuna that you don't remember so many previous births, but I remember all of it. So Mamta Mataji, you were asking about the memory. So Krishna is saying here that you don't remember because Krishna doesn't give us the memory of our previous births.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Sorry, I've got one more question. You were just talking about previous Mataji asking about the rebirth, where you rebirth. So, like the Hindus, the Hindu culture, the Gujarati culture, I don't know if it's a Hindu culture. So when you get married, the priest says, oh, now you're married, you'll be married to this person for the next 7 lives. So that's all rubbish then, isn't it?
Yes, completely. Completely, Mataji. And that is why when you come to Krishna consciousness, you realize, and again, I see the thing is, we must not, what do you say? We must not, it's emotions. It's people's emotions, which has been carried on for so many generations and years. It cannot change overnight. But like in my case, when I came to Krishna consciousness, so, like there are these different kinds of vratas that you do for the long life of your husband, right? I come from a culture where you do the Tej. I don't know if you have heard of Tej, but we do that. And eventually, I kind of stopped doing that because I thought to myself, that's not really Krishna conscious in that sense. And I'll tell you another, again, example about me. All of us, we have this in our Hindus, we wear these different kind of stones, like Pukhraj and yellow stone and rubies and this, that, and everything and all. So I was also wearing a couple of stones because my in-laws have studied astrology. So they've like done a degree in astrology from Baroda University and all that. So they believe in all that. And, they'd got these stones made for me, But after probably a year or two, I took all those rings, all those stones off and I kept them because the consciousness is that, once I'm taking shelter of Krishna, I don't need all these things. Now, I'm not saying that, see, when you know it is going to rain, it is safe to carry an umbrella. That's fine. And Krishna also used to meet astrologers. So it is not that there is anything against it. But obviously, you have to have that consciousness where you don't get carried away. The point that Srila Prabhupada was used to make when his disciples asked him about astrology is, we don't have those kinds of very, very learned and completely, how do you say, unattached to fruits, that where somebody is willing just to do things to help you. In this material world, you need to be careful because most of the astrologers will tell you, do this puja, give me this much money, get this ring done and everything is fine. But does it really work? So that is why once you start taking shelter of Krishna, you start understanding the philosophy, then some of these things are not dharma. These things, like I said, they are cultural layers that have been come on us because of generations. And again, one must respect it because, there is some truth to it. It's not like it is complete whatever, but we don't know the whole thing. So
Mm.
it's a personal choice, I would say.
Mm. Thank you, thank you, Mataji.
No problem. Is that all? Any other realizations, thoughts anybody wants to share? If not,
Hare Krishna,
sorry.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Just a little comment.
Yes.
Mataji, as you're saying that, astrology is true, but, like, Srila Prabhupada's, they've been, like, in astrology, it says, and that happened, right? And even in, who was Lord Chaitanya, but at that time, there were those astrologers, they were very pure and very knowledgeable. And so that comes true. But nowadays, as you say, this astrologer, they have some knowledge, but they are not pure enough and they're more into the business type. So that's why, it's not all the time right. So
Correct.
as you say, that we shouldn't be depending totally on it. Hare Krishna.
Correct. So there is nothing wrong with astrology. Like I say, of course, it is a science. So I totally believe in that because it is a science. But we don't have that kind of pure and knowledgeable person. And I'll tell you one more story. There is a very, very well-known astrologer in the south of India. When Vaishnavas go to him, he says, I cannot tell you anything about yourself. And you know why he says that? He says, you've taken shelter of Krishna. And for such people, I cannot predict anything because Krishna is the destiny maker, destiny changer. He is everything. So I cannot give you any kind of predictions for Vaishnavas. This is true. This is what he says.
Can I just add one point, Mataji?
Yes.
Yeah, please, Mataji. So basically, by taking shelter, by asking advice from a material astrologer, when you're already a Vaishnava and you're depending on Krishna, is actually an insult to Krishna, because it is an insult to Krishna because you've taken shelter of him, so you have to go somewhere else and ask. So that means you don't trust Krishna there.
No. So Mamta Mataji, there are two ways to look at this now. Okay. So I'll give you one story to tell you this. Yeah. So once there was a flood. Okay, there was a flood. There was this farmer. He was sitting in his house, in his hut, and people were trying to escape. And the boat people, they tried to tell him, come on, get on this boat. And he said, no, I am waiting for Krishna. Okay. So then another boat passed by, and a third and a fourth, and the boats keep passing by, and the water is going on, flooding his house, rising up. And he says, no, I'm waiting for Krishna. Finally, Krishna says to him, I sent you so many times my
Okay.
So it is not an insult to Krishna, because you have to remember that Krishna can use any of his instruments. Astrologers, it's not an insult. And taking the advice of astrologers, there is nothing wrong with it if you can trust the astrologer. If the astrologer is not out to con you or make money out of you, there is no harm. Like I said, if you know it is going to rain, so you read the weather and it's going to rain, there's no harm in carrying an umbrella. Likewise, if you know that there's going to be some problems in your life, and if the astrologer can help you with things, there's no harm in that. Even Krishna approached astrologers. So it's not an insult.
So Krishna is in the form of whatever other people or whatever it is.
Of course, because Krishna is in the astrologer as well, isn't he? He's in everybody's.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. I'm so sorry for a silly question, but
No problem. Okay. It's 8:55. If there are no more pressing questions or comments, then we can stop here, unless anybody has other comments to make.
Hare Krishna Mataji, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
I also wanted to really add something, as you say about the rings. I also had this. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, I felt, why am I wearing that? It's a long time now. I can't even remember. What is this? No, I don't think I need this. And it's, I think, maybe 15 years it is gone. You know, even it is gold and everything. I said, no. Even there is a small diamond, I think I should not wear this, because that's I don't, you know what I mean? It's not that big, huge diamonds. I'm saying, the small ear studs or something. I don't feel even to wear something. That's a thought comes to me.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
and also another thing about the astrology, even sometimes if you have impediments in spiritual life, everything, maybe you can check, and if that astrologer is very like converse, he
Mm.
could help you. But as you say, the
Yes.
because he could help. No, because you're a surrendered person, at least to some extent, because you pray to the Lord, you worship, you do devotional service.
Mm.
So in that way, I'm just connecting. He,
Yes, no, it's true. It's
yeah,
true because what you have to understand is that if whoever you're taking advice of, you
yeah,
are taking advice of that person as an instrument of Krishna.
yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
Always, like I said, if you keep Krishna in the center for anything that you do, you cannot go wrong.
yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. Always very sweet, very very close to the.
I
Thank
just
you.
want to say one thing. A
Yes.
devotee knows that after that he's going back home or back to Godhead. So therefore he should not have any fear of that.
Correct. Correct. There
That
should
is
be no
very
fear of.
important. Yes. Devotee knows that he is going to go. That's why they should not fear. And I think we should not be asking this sort of different questions of
No,
astrology
but
and the death and all that. And I
no,
think
but
that
Bhagavati Mataji, the point is that a devotee, what he should have is no fear of death.
yeah,
He should also know it doesn't matter where he is going.
yes,
Yes, our hope and our prayer is that, yes, we are going back to Godhead because Prabhupada says that, hold on to me and I'll take you back. But he should have no fear of where he is going as well, as
where he
long
is
as
going.
the
Yes,
fear
yeah.
should be that he should not forget Krishna.
Because his
That's
good karmas will take him wherever Krishna desires, you see, no
correct.
matter what you look into. Yeah.
And the other thing is about astrology. The thing about astrology is that a lot of our like our very very
I think,
senior devotees also talk about astrology when
yes,
people are going through struggles, in the sense that physical problems, illnesses and whatever else. So yes, even a lot of our very very senior devotees, like even sannyasis, talk about it. So there is
yeah,
no harm, like we say, about taking shelter of that at all. But obviously, you need to be careful, because there are a lot of such people who then are just out
that's
to make
right.
money.
I know one of my friends, she went through lots of this
Ah,
thing, and then in the end, she did the vastu and everything. It cost her
ah.
nearly 6,000 pounds. Can
Yeah,
you believe that?
that's why
And
you
I
have to
don't, nothing has changed her life, you see. So
see,
you
that's what I'm
can,
saying, that's why you should, I mean, and again, Bhagavati Mataji, this is so personal, isn't it? Like,
yes,
everybody.
very personal. Yes, you have, because sometimes you are so desperate. I must
Correct,
change my,
correct,
destination, but it never changes.
correct,
Never
correct,
changes.
correct.
Yeah.
It's a personal thing. So yeah,
Hare Krishna.
it was a good discussion. Thank you all for
Thank
always
you.
taking
Wonderful.
part, because these discussions really add to the classes. It's wonderful that all of you take part, and I'm very very grateful to all of you. Thank you so much. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu
च
Patitanam
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो
Pavanebhyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो
Vaishnavebhyo.
नमो नमः
Hare
थैंक यू
Krishna.
माता जी हरे
Srila
कृष्णा
Prabhupada ki jai.
जय
Krishna,
हरे
Mataji,
कृष्णा
Hare
हरे
Krishna.
कृष्णा
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Bye.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
थैंक यू माता जी हरे कृष्णा माता जी हरे
Thank
कृष्णा
Hare
माता
Krishna
जी
Mataji, Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna,
everybody.
Mataji. Thank you very
Thank you
much. Hare
very
Krishna.
much.
Thank you.